The one thing common to virtually every coffee drinker I know is they start the day with a cup of coffee. I'm going to suggest that this coffee is the one they would fight to keep if they were permitted just one. Roasters who have one signature blend will usually label it a breakfast blend. It's typically their most distinctive blend, yet it's also the one that is considered friendly enough to appeal to anyone who self-identifies as a coffee drinker. Oh, what a combination, distinctive yet with mass appeal. Breakfast blends used to automatically be presumed to be price-friendly too, as diners and coffee shops alike were at one time expected to offer endless refills at no extra charge, called the bottomless cup where I lived. This may seem like a gift, but it often resulted in shortcuts along the way, including choice of origin, inclusion of low-cost Robusta varieties, and even watered-down brewing formulas. Still, there were noble practitioners and restaurateurs who somehow presented some truly awesome breakfast blend cups that loom in the long-term memories of aficionados. And indeed, we are hoping to discover more today. I would suggest that a good breakfast blend means more than just suitability to accompany eggs over easy or fresh squeezed orange juice. It means a brightness in the cup, enough to chase away the last remnants of slumber. A depth to the cup, through roast or body, or perhaps viscosity is the better word, to anchor the cup. Enough to stand up to cream. And please spare me the mock indignation, those of you who claim to have taken an oath of celibacy against partaking of any liquid coffee product, but the plain extract from your brewer. While this may be the gold standard of coffee quality, many coffee lovers of the highest caliber freely indulge during their first morning cups. Enough that a breakfast blend needs to be able to play nice with cream. I even considered adding cream to our samples this tasting and ranking, but I ultimately decided it would be better to keep our tests the same. I'm also eager to spread the good news that many breakfast blends may become your favorites, regardless of the time of day. I like to remind viewers that, unless specified, we brew these coffees according to the same recipe. We use a ration of 1 liter of water to 65 grams of fresh drip grind coffee using an automatic drip coffee maker capable of heating the water to 200 degrees Fahrenheit, plus or minus 5 degrees, with a water to grounds contact time of 6 minutes or less. Wow, that's a mouthful. Maybe more than you want to know, but since the 1950s, when the Coffee Development Group created those standards, which are now shared by a number of World Trade Organizations, including our own Specialty Coffee Association, well, all you really need to know for sure is to purchase a 1 liter measuring cup, a small kitchen scale, enough to weigh your coffee, and a coffee maker reviewed here that uses time and temperature measurement, and you should be in good shape to verify your own coffee tasting tests for any coffee recommended by coffeeists.
Wait! Stop the pour. I won't drink a single drop until we figure out what a breakfast blend actually is.
Breakfast blends. Why are we talking about breakfast blends today? I think it was your idea.
It was. Yeah, it is. And I had in mind the fact that breakfast blend is a common term, one of the few common terms for a style of coffee that people can usually rely on. In other words, a breakfast blend in the United States, at any rate, is usually fairly sweet, not dark roasted, light roasted, a little bit of what we call acidity, sweet tartness in it. And I think with the coffee prices rising again, about 4 times as much per pound, the green coffee prices, as a few months ago, it'd be interested to see what the roasters are doing with these breakfast blends. Whether the quality is staying good, and it's just a kind of a archaeology of taste exercise, Kevin. It's a standard kind of choice. Consumers, I think, expect a certain style of cup, and we can taste it and see whether that style has changed for whatever reasons, for reasons of taste or reasons of coffee price, and just talk about coffee blends. I mean, it's a reliable go-to choice on particularly in supermarket shelves, but also on some websites.
I could tell you what I've heard about breakfast blends because I have an opinion on this, and I have some relationships with roasters who've told me over the years how they view breakfast blends. Breakfast blends are a great way for them to put coffees together that otherwise don't have so much name recognition, and sometimes highlight coffees that don't get as much love maybe as they should. It's also a way to balance between some older coffees that are maybe getting more mellow but don't have quite the brightness any longer, and coffees that are new that are maybe overly bright but haven't quite gotten to their peak yet. Aren't they all based originally on the Mocha Java? We recently did Mocha Java. The idea of putting two coffees together to kind of balance each other out.
If you're just talking about the idea of blends, yeah. But I think those are good points. And I think the paranoid view of breakfast blends among coffee aficionados, of course, is that, yeah, they're kind of getting rid of old coffees in them. I will find out, I guess. We won't find out for sure, but we can suspect things based on our tasting. I will say about breakfast blends, it's a kind of concept that allows for flexibility, as you say, for the roaster. If roasters have a signature blend with a protected name, they really want to try to get a consistency in that blend. In breakfast blend, it is a type, a style of coffee, but I think they have a lot more flexibility, so you're right. I'm curious whether there's more Brazils in these than I used to remember from the old days when there were a lot of Central Americas.
One more thing I would say about breakfast blends, I think this is one coffee that I think, without doubt, always needs to stand up to cream for consumers. Because I know a number of people who drink black coffee every other moment of their life, but when it comes to breakfast, their first cup of the day, I always see them asking for cream.
We'll see what people get with breakfast blends anyhow. Maybe we can start a mini trend.
I will say, in scouting around, I did find roasters that did not offer a breakfast blend, but many did. I'm hoping you'll find it at least interesting, feedback I got and what little information they would tell me about the coffees.
One last thing is that it's a pretty old-fashioned kind of concept. It doesn't really fit the so-called third wave of high-end roasters. They may have a coffee that's in the style of breakfast blend, but I'm sure they have a fancier and snappier name for it. I'm ready to start these suckers. I'm needy for my breakfast blend.
Well, here we go. All right, let's bring out coffee number one then, or A.
When life gives you lemons, apparently it also gives you this cup of coffee.
Let's taste some coffee.
Much needed breakfast blend. Well, I'd say that's a classic breakfast blend nose. It's bright, sweet, bright, delicate, definitely medium roasted, medium to light roasted.
Yeah.
Very fresh. You know, the nose in this coffee is very, very fresh, I think, if that's sort of a metaphor, I guess. It has morning all over it.
Yeah, doesn't it?
All in it, I guess. Kind of very smooth but lively. I don't get any very distinctive notes. There's a kind of a caramel something I think you could call cocoa. Maybe a fruit like peach. Very freshly cut wood.
Man.
What are your reactions, Kevin?
This is just, this is like a light roasted coffee that is just bright, cheerful. If there's such a thing as cheerful smelling. Maybe it's cheerful to me because I know I'm expecting to taste something I like. I feel like I've got to take a look at the menu now and see what kind of pancakes I want.
Yeah, it's a kind of a happy coffee.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to have a sip here.
All right, me too.
I don't think it lets down very much. It certainly changes your structure. The basic taste structure is a little dry. There's a little bitter edge to the sweetness. I think it's nice. I'm getting a very distinct citrus in the finish.
Yeah.
You get that? Sort of a lemonade,
Yeah.
lemony. Very light-bodied. The coffee like this, I tend to overlook any lightness in the body that I might criticize in another style of coffee because it goes with the lightness and brightness. Light mouthfeel.
Very light-bodied. But there's enough going on in the top end that...
Right.
A nice little sipper.
The wood notes are a little more prominent, I think, and I suppose we can find nut in there somewhere. Very nice finish, though. You get the finish? It's very...
Yeah.
No, it's long. And it's really, for such a light-bodied coffee, it's very resonant and deep. Just a lovely sweetness, lemony citrus character. Well, this is a winner, I tell you. It's a coffee, I think, that makes its statement as a breakfast blend, too. It doesn't try to straddle tastes, and try to satisfy somebody who wants something heavier or more pronounced. Like my wife, Yara, she wouldn't care for this coffee. She gets up every morning and makes an espresso straight. She likes that body,
Yeah. I understand. There are certainly a number of ways to have your first cup. This is one of them, and that's another.
You want to identify it?
Yes. This is a roaster that has a story to it, for me at least. This is called Java House Roasters. I think one of the first coffees I wrote about, they're in the greater Iowa City area. 1994 blend, which is the year I started writing about coffees.
94 vintage blend. Does it say anything about vintage? Vintage is a name for a certain kind of older coffee. This doesn't taste like an old coffee at all to me, old green coffee.
I think they're referring to their history that they started in this year. Maybe this has to do with the first coffee they created. I asked which was their breakfast blend, and they said, this would definitely be what they would issue as a breakfast blend. They're in the hometown of Grant Wood, who did the famous. It's actually the painting is in Chicago.
American Gothic is the name of the painting. Yeah. It
looks like a farmer and his wife, but the models for it were Grant Wood's dentist and his daughter. And dentist was a little surprised that he appeared as such a rural caricature perhaps is the way he looked at it. But it's a very nice, beautiful painting. They've used it as kind of to tie themselves in. This roaster, like many others, only would tell me that it was a blend of South and Central American coffees.
For one thing, I think the fact that it's from an older roaster in a heartland American state or town, I think it's reflected in the coffee. This is a classic American in the best style. This is not the kind of cup that drove everybody to drinking lattes, all that kind of diner Robusta stuff. This is the classic Arabica, bright, balanced, delicate, sweet, blend, so I'm very impressed. That's the classic breakfast blend formula, actually. A classic breakfast blend formula would be maybe 30% Colombia for power and depth, maybe another 30% some Central American coffee for brightness and sweetness. Used to be El Salvador, now it's probably Honduras. And then Brazil. The Brazil saves money and also gives it a kind of, knits it together.
Yeah. Does the Brazil often add body?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
because I'm not
they
getting
do.
enough body in this.
No.
I don't know, but I did not taste, obviously, Brazil. Sometimes I feel like I can taste the Brazil,
Yeah.
or I
No, I'm
sense
not
that.
getting, I would sense Brazil in the sense of some roundness or resonance, like as in the finish. No, I think it's mostly washed coffee, so it could be Centrals and Colombias with only some Brazil. But a very nice job.
Well, I'm sure they'll appreciate this, and I like to think that if Grant Wood were around, I was a coffee drinker, by the way. I found a photograph of him having coffee with Carl Sandburg. Unfortunately, it's unidentified who the roaster was, or the blend.
Well, this coffee is more what I expected when we decided to do breakfast blends.
Actually, Ken, I found this coffee while vacationing in Wisconsin last summer. I found it at the Pick and Save in Sturgeon Bay while picking up some brats and cheese curds. I brewed it up somewhere between my third beer and second breakfast. Honestly, I achieved full enlightenment by 10 a.m.
Well, I will say it comes across as sweet. And again, one has to be careful to make transitions without hanging on too hard to the last cup.
I know.
Yeah,
That is the tendency.
Yeah. This is obviously much lower toned. There's some brightness, some acidity, but it's really backgrounded. And there's a kind of woody character that dominates. And I'm afraid that right now I'm picking up a little rubber with the wood as well. Again, fresh rubber, but new tire rubber, but nevertheless.
I just want to break in on that just because in the past I've gotten worried when you mentioned rubber, but I also think you've also gone on to say that's not always a defect to you.
Right.
Just the presence of the rubber taste.
Or odor, usually, more than
Odor,
taste.
right, correct.
Yeah.
Scent, yes.
Aroma, yeah.
Aroma, yes.
I kind of have to fish for it a little bit, but I'm getting the chocolate.
Oh, you're getting some chocolate.
Do you?
Well, I'm sure getting the wood.
Go into the wood, Kevin.
Yeah.
Sort of
Okay.
roam around inside the wood, and I think you'll find something that is persuasively sort of a milk chocolate.
It's later.
Yeah.
It's a Milky Way, yeah.
Not a crisp cocoa or anything like that.
Correct.
Or dark chocolate. I'm definitely getting flowers floating around in there. You get past that woody impression and you get a kind of a chrysanthemum maybe. It's a kind of a veggie sort of flower, I think. And there's some kind of fruit. And what do you think? Prune? Pear? Not pear, I mean plum. Oh, plum. Pear.
Plum,
You
yeah.
like pear?
I
I
thought
get
pear was
pear.
getting close to it, yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. Yeah, pear. Yeah, that's nice. So I think we have to credit this coffee with a kind of success in its own terms.
Yes, a different cup.
Yeah, has some virtues. Shall we taste it?
Absolutely.
Well, a lot of the flavor seems to fade a bit
Yeah.
in the cup.
Less.
A lot of the aromatic notes that we were pulling out of the wood,
Yeah.
I'm having trouble finding. And it's a balanced cup. The brightness, or somebody who doesn't like brightness or acidity would, I think, appreciate the fact that there is not much here. There's enough to keep the cup lively, to keep it alive, but not enough to remark on. Pretty good body, mouthfeel.
Good body, more body, that for sure.
Certainly fuller and rounder than the Cup A.
Yeah, kind of some viscosity.
Yeah. And the finish is okay. Sort of not much there, but no, you've drunk a coffee, you know that. This might be a good winter morning coffee. I guess you'd know more about that than I would.
We've certainly had more of it. Yeah.
Right. In the sense that it has some presence, some power. You know, you might not want some delicate, light, cheerful little coffee like A. Maybe you want something that says, "Hey, it's okay."
Good, strong Midwestern.
Right. Yeah. You'll make it. You'll make it. I wish there were more chocolate in it, that's all. I mean, I wish this wood got the chocolate more.
Yeah, I see where you're headed. Oh, what do you think? Do you want to know who it is?
Yep.
Okay. This is a company called Torquay. I see the E is... There we go. I thought it was Torque, but it's Torquay. Speaking of winter, they're a Wisconsin roaster. They're up in Sheboygan. And I discovered this last summer when I was in Wisconsin for a brief period. Their Big Mug Breakfast Blend. This is one coffee I know something about. The only one that they were specific enough. It was a Colombian Guatemala blend.
This one could have some coffees that have been sitting in the green bean for a while. I think I taste the Colombia in the sense that mouthfeel we talked about is characteristic of Colombia coffees.
Yeah.
They're usually high grown, and the beans are dense and produce pretty viscous cup typically. Guatemala, I suppose, should bring some life to the blend, some lift. I'm not getting too much of that, but Guatemala, of course, it's such a diverse country in regards to growing coffee. There's so many different regions and styles. You're up there in Sheboygan, and on a day when it's about 5 above zero, and you come in for your coffee, and you don't want to screw around with any kind of light-bodied stuff.
Yeah.
This would take milk pretty well too, I think.
Yeah.
Wouldn't lose itself.
This has some body to it.
And smooth finishing. I find the body sort of leads me back up to another sip. I don't know if you're hearing anything.
I am.
But there's a squirrel on the roof. Yeah, I think there are two up there, and they're hassling over something.
Are they married?
Well, here again, you have to kind of approach it in its own terms, in the terms that it's proposing, and it's a low tone. The wood notes I'm getting are probably arbitrary, but it's redwood. It strikes me as redwood.
Redwood, huh?
But it's a kind of sweet, deep bottom to it. I'm getting a familiar spice in the nose. I want to say cinnamon, but maybe nutmeg.
I was going to go for either nutmeg or cloves, actually.
Clove will work too. I think that some people find those kind of notes very attractive.
I do.
Yeah, boy, it's clear now. Now that we've gotten to the clove and nutmeg, I'm certainly not getting anything in the way of flowers. I'm getting a little bit of fruit. Well, quite a bit of fruit. I'm thinking grapes. Deeper toned Concord, yeah.
But it still says breakfast blend to me.
How does it express its breakfast blendedness?
I'm trying to imagine why I'm thinking that, and other than that I'm doing a show on breakfast blends, but I'm just trying to think I'm in a restaurant and I get served this coffee.
Right. And it's exactly what you expected.
It is, yeah. And why is it that?
And I think we should be able to call a nut of some kind. How about walnuts?
I would say walnut, yeah.
Should we have a sip?
Yeah, let's have a sip of this.
Very substantial mouthfeel.
Mm-hmm.
A full-bodied breakfast
Yeah.
cup. Now the fruit's dried out.
Yeah.
It's to me, kind of a pruny or raisiny. Boy, that's a sweetly woody cup, I would say.
Yeah.
Those spice notes in the cup, a little less prominently than in the nose. The best feature is the very substantial and very smooth body.
Body is really nice.
Yeah, I think that's the main virtue of this cup. It's not always easy to blend a cup that has this much substance in the mouthfeel but doesn't have any astringency or drying. You know, it stays sweet even though it's very full.
Yeah, right.
This is another probably Colombia-dominated cup, but there might be some Brazils too. This will get me off the stool of the diner out into the world.
I'm not going to be able to top that. Let's look at the coffee.
Okay. Oh, Green Mountain. Now there's a bright, crisp, clean. Well, it tries. It's not dirty, that's for sure. It's not
No,
dirty.
it's not a dirty cup
it's
at
a
all
clean.
in any way.
It's a clean cup.
I would assume all washed, wouldn't you?
Well, no, it could be a Brazil.
Oh, a Brazil might
remember
not.
the classic Brazil is a natural.
Is a natural.
Kind of old
Yeah, I think
school
there's
natural.
probably some Brazil in this. I would say in general principles, it's probably there's a Brazil in here somewhere.
Prices are good and the quality is fairly reliable.
And there's nothing to say about it. They're not also, I didn't even get a chance to talk to anybody there.
Only A was really a light roast. These would be, in my lexicon, they'd be medium roasts, B and C.
Yeah. And a light roast, yes, with the caveat, not third wave on the first one either.
Well, I think it could be.
Oh, we were talking about this recently. Third wave is not as super light as it used to be. Is that fair?
Well, really? I thought it's getting lighter.
What do you think?
That coffee review, just statistically from the Agtrons, for the top-rated coffees, the Agtrons have gotten lighter. What I would say is that these roasters have gotten better at doing light roasts. They can develop the coffee at a lighter roast than they used to because they're exploring it more. And of course, the roasting's gotten much more technical with computers. The margin for error in roasting increases at both the light and dark ends.
Sure. Right.
The lighter you get or the darker, if you go to the extremes, there's more risk of blowing it. And so I think that these roasters have gotten better and better at doing a super light roast.
Let's take a momentary break, and I love these squirrel sounds, man. This is a field audio dream.
It's striking how in San Francisco,
yeah,
the word has still not gotten out. All the major museums, art museums, with very sophisticated cafe food for lunch, they produce the shittiest, deliberately dark roasted coffee. Well, I would say this one's a kind of nice, balanced, crisp cup in between A, which was very bright and delicate, and B and C, which were heavier bodied and tended more towards low tones and wood and dried fruit notes. This one's sort of right in the middle of that spectrum, I think. It's kind of sweet, crisp. There's a cup in the tests that we could call classic. This would be it. It's kind of quiet, unobtrusive, doesn't call attention to itself, but when you focus on it, you realize that very little of that woody tendency, right?
Yeah, much less.
If it is, it's very, very fresh cut kind of wood. Fundamental notes in this cup, I'd go more towards nut. A sweet nut, a nice cashew.
Cashew was what jumped out.
And a quiet, backgrounded fruit. Peach, perhaps.
Citrus. It's peach.
I think you're right. I often overlook citrus for some reason. I think there's a little bit of citrusy brightness. They're also integrated, aren't they? It's one kind of sustained and coherent impression that has a lot of nuance. At Coffee Review, at least I often use the term layered. In other words, you sense that there's a lot going on, but it's tightly layered. So you don't get notes that you could metaphorically say are top notes or high notes. Yeah, they're all tightly layered together. Very quiet, inobtrusive, and satisfying. I just sipped some, Kevin. All of these coffees, they're remarkably sustained and coherent as you go from the nose to the cup.
Yeah, I haven't had one yet that jumps, just sometimes they're a surprise when you taste them. None of these are.
Right. The structure is very balanced. In other words, I used the term structure to describe the balance of the basic tastes. I mean, it's difficult to pull out sweet. There's some tart. Bitterness in coffee is a bitter beverage, so we take bitterness for granted in coffee, but it's an important part of the profile. We look for sweetness because sweetness is more rare in coffee. But this has, all of the basic tastes are just really lovely, and a lovely coherent package. And again, kind of medium-bodied, not light, but not full either. This has been a very, very interesting exercise for me. See these roasters doing a really thoughtful job. Remarkable. I mean, somebody paid attention, right? They didn't just say, "Oh, we got to do a breakfast blend."
Right. Let me put it in a very blunt way for me, my blunt consumer's way. The thought that somebody got handed 2 sacks of coffees and said, "Oh, we got to put out a blend," choosing the right coffee and then going back and forth with how much, what the ratios are, just to give this beautiful third taste.
Exactly. It's kind of pure but complex, and it's a coffee almost, it seems to me, that says, "No, I don't want to surprise you. Yeah. I just want to please you."
This is all about. This is the right.
Yeah.
This
is just the opposite of these coffees that we're getting at Coffee Review that are anaerobic processed.
Yeah.
And have these wild tastes like bubble gum and cologne. And as you can tell, I'm getting a little tired of them.
I know, me too. The new flavored coffees.
I don't want to put it down because some of them are beautiful. This is the opposite in a sense. This succeeds. Inobtrusive, careful balance, aiming to satisfy.
These are not for the jaded taste buds like some of the more adventurous coffees are. But they're just crowd pleasers.
D and A in particular. B and C are more get the job done, do it well, but just get it done. So what is another coffee from your Middle Western roasters there?
I'm glad you set me up nicely for that. This is a New York roaster.
Oh, okay.
Batch coffee. And I don't know if you remember Batch. Batch was at one of our coffee cons in New York. And you were there. You taught a tasting class. But they're from Binghamton, New York is where they're roasted. But they're in Manhattan. This is another one though that didn't tell me anything about the coffees other than it was blend of Central and South American coffees. That limits it. So, but I get a sense.
Well, it does.
From that. Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah.
I certainly knew I was not going to get an Indonesian coffee or an African coffee. Right. So it's
this is the essence of Latin American coffee tradition. The traditional coffees of Latin America.
Yeah. And these are all washed. I would assume washed, except for the Brazil, as you say.
If there's a Brazil in here, which I think there may well be, because there's a kind of a coherence and smoothness maybe that perhaps a really good Brazil will give to the blend.
Now, do you taste any roast in this? By that I mean any hint of. Well, you know what? Maybe in the Agtron numbers will tell.
Well, we'll find out,
Yeah.
but I think you're right. I mean, I didn't notice it, but you're right. I think that, in a sense, the roast was used to quieten round the smoother. Yeah.
Right.
So now I'm picking up, I could even say that I'm picking up a slight roasty edge. But mainly it helped knit the coffees together. Certainly darker than A.
It did, and it kept me from initially identifying it as a stereotype breakfast blend, which I think of as
I see.
light. It is.
Oh, really?
I do. Yeah, I think a breakfast blend is
Well, the
inherently
only
light.
one here that's light, though, that tastes light to me is A.
Is A, yeah, I know. While that's true, this is the only one that had anything that's, so far, tastes at all of roast.
Boy, that finish is
It's
beautiful.
a wonderful finish, isn't it?
It's still ringing, just satisfying. And in this case, it's turned chocolatey.
Chocolate,
I think, in the
isn't it?
finish.
Yeah, as it cools, I like that.
Kind of a sophisticated, darkish sort of chocolate. Yeah, that is one damn great cup.
I knew you would like that.
In the classic tradition, I tell you, there's this old terminology for roast names. These names like city roast and full.
Oh
city.
yeah, right. French roast.
City
Vienna
roast supposedly was, which is maybe slightly darker than medium. City roast was associated with New York City.
Right, correct.
And so if this is a New York City coffee, then this is a beautiful city roast.
Well, I think it's kind of fun. I think it's fun when we've done the various shows and gone around the country meeting the roasters, and I get a solid sense that certain cities have an identity with roast. Of course, Seattle being another one. But I kind of find that fun. At one time, I think there was a feeling of geography. You've some early coffee books, I don't think yours, but Schaefer's maybe, talk about that, I think, a little bit.
Well, it's striking how in San Francisco, the word has still not gotten out. So San Francisco got claimed by dark roast, and a museum cafe in a sophisticated museum is still doing these wretched dark roasts. This just bugs me. It's too bad this is not broadcast TV, so I could really give it to these people.
You're firing me up about it.
But I'm sure that in Manhattan, the coffee in the Metropolitan Museum is not dark roasted. It's not probably great coffee. It's probably pretty ordinary, but at least it's not destroyed in the roast.
Do we have a soapbox icon we can put? Thank you, Ken. At Coffeeists, we've tasted a lot of breakfast blends, but one connoisseur has finally made her choice. Introducing Muddy Paw, coffee with heart and a bark. Well, I think let's do another cup of coffee. You up for one? Here, let me get the sound for this time. The squirrel shouldn't have all the glory here. Okay.
This cup tries to be balanced and coherent and inobtrusively satisfying, and I think it almost gets there. It'd be a very demanding job to take D and E, put them next to one another, and try to say why I like D better than E. I think there's just more going on. But this is it's kind of quiet, coherent, kind of a layered, tightly knit aromatics, balanced in structure. I'm getting a very sweet wood note, fresh cut wood note. I'll go back to my childhood and say it's fresh cut elm wood, but nobody outside of the Middle West knows what elm smells like.
Middle West would understand it. I would.
Some caramelly chocolate, I think. Some low-toned flowers of some kind. I often think of pistachio as peanuts on steroids.
And peanuts not typically a flattering thing to say about someone's coffee.
No, it's not. No. Well, because the problem is that the term has been hijacked by people who are defining taints in coffee. So
Yeah.
The Brazil coffees, natural Brazils, a peanut, that word is the kiss of death
Yeah.
for a Brazilian coffee. So,
It's at least has to lower the price a little. Yeah.
but I think pistachio has some of the same qualities. There's more going on with it. I'm looking for fruit, whether I get some fruit. I'm not sure. It's a kind of a subdued peach sort of thing,
Peach, okay.
but not very clear. But good solid cup. I like it. I like the aroma. Because it definitely has a sweet floral note, more so, I think, than any of these. I'm taking a sip, Kevin.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
These are so coherent as they go from the aroma to the cup. I mean, they diminish, the aromatics diminish because they have to fit inside the structure that we're experiencing.
Right.
But they're coherent.
Yeah.
They're not surprising. Not disappointing, as often happens with aroma. When you go from the aroma to the cup, you get disappointed because the complexity and excitement that's in the aroma diminishes. But it does diminish, but it just solidifies maybe rather than diminishes. Very nice. It gets chocolatey towards the finish, right?
Yeah, might get a lot of chocolate.
And there's that pistachio peanut thing.
The peanut, comes forward. The pistachio comes forward.
At Coffee Review, we often wonder sometimes we get nut notes, but they're not clear, not decisive. And we struggle with how to describe that, because you don't want to say old or stale pistachio, because that wouldn't be fair. So you just have to say quiet pistachio.
Quiet pistachios, okay.
Do you get maybe a little tickle of citrus now in the cup?
Mm-hmm.
I think a little lemon.
Lemon would be good, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
A very impressively classic cup.
Yeah.
Well, Manhattan, Middle West.
Well,
you probably don't have any West Coast coffees at all.
Well, you'll be surprised. Do you know this company? This is Muddy Paw?
Like paw as in dog?
Yeah. Muddy Paw.
Muddy Paw.
Muddy Paw
No,
Coffee.
I don't know them.
Okay, they're
Buddy
in
blend.
the Silver Lake in L.A.
Oh, so you did get a
I
West
did.
Coast.
Yeah, I wanted to get a West Coast coffee. I actually was walking down the street in Silver Lake, and I spotted the shop, and I met Darren, the owner. His coffee shop's motto is "Have a cup, save a pup." They donate a portion of their proceeds to local animal shelters and host adoption events. I have come to regard him as he's a very thoughtful roaster, and all of his coffees are blends. I was doing a breakfast blend. I said, I was curious, do you have one you'd identify as a breakfast blend? And this is the one he recommended.
And you asked him for a breakfast blend, and he recommended Buddy blend.
Yep,
huh?
Buddy blend. So he said, that's my breakfast blend. He said, that's the popular one right now for breakfast.
That's very nice.
Yeah, thank you. By the way, one thing about the Buddy blend I want to mention, he's the only roaster that went to the trouble of his origin, although it's cryptic, Central South America tri blend. I would guess there's Brazil in this, and I would guess there's,
some
Colombian.
But it has tri would be a classic American breakfast blend of Colombia, Central, and Brazil. Now, I should say, of course, that seasonally, roasters use Peru.
Oh, of course, right.
Yeah, they usually work it as a substitute for the Central America components, because it's usually the Perus are usually sort of lively and soft, delicate, but lively. Peru is in the southern hemisphere, so like Brazil, it has a winter for us. In the northern hemisphere, so winter coffee. In other words, it's middle of our summer when the harvest happens. Central America coffees, it's a winter harvest, and Colombia goes both ways, because half the country is in the in terms of weather, is in the southern hemisphere, the southern half, and the northern half of Colombia is in the northern hemisphere in terms of weather pattern. The equator is farther south. That's why Colombia is such a valuable origin for coffee people, because they keep it coming all year long.
Isn't that wonderful?
When we talk about agtrons or agtron numbers, this is a machine-obtained number that relates to how dark or light the coffee is roasted. The higher the number, the lighter the roast. The lower number, the darker the roast. Counterintuitive. We're going to start with A, so 60, so that's quite light.
60 is light, as it says it is light.
And B?
Torquey.
47, which is, that's the sort of the darker end of medium. Whole bean agtron of 44 for C, that's definitely over into dark, just at the edge of the second crack. D, whole bean 51, pretty squarely medium. That's the one that I was so excited about, was so coherent and balanced. So that's a coherent, balanced sort of agtron. E,
yes, muddy paw.
38, which puts it definitely into the second crack in a dark roast.
Let's put them in order, which might be difficult or might be easy.
It's interesting that we have the extremes, the darkest roast on one end of the line and the lightest roast at
Correct.
the other.
Yeah.
And I think the one that was 51, was it, is somewhere in the middle. None of these cups stands out for me as something I would dismiss. And I think all of these are success in their own terms.
Agreed.
As we were working through, I thought, my preference is going to be A, but it's not. I'm drinking it cold, of course, or room temperature. I do feel it lacks resonance and depth. It's a little almost grassy, but a good one. It's a very nice light roast blend. And I think I'm going to pick D. This is not my overwhelming favorite, but I think it's just nicely complete and balanced and coherent cup. I'm going to put that one first. So I'm going to take the bright light roasted one and say that's my number 2 pick. B as my third choice. That's another kind of coherent, quiet, coherent cup that tries to be completely balanced and classic. It lacks a little bit in complexity, I think, but it's a nice cup. So that would be my third choice. Now I'm going to put the dark roasted cup, California dark roasted cup as as my fourth choice, but it's not a big drop off. It's a nice cup. And I'm going to put this, C I put as last because I'm picking up that rubber.
Yeah,
now.
the rubber is getting a little, it doesn't taste better as it cools, folks. I have, don't always coincide with yours. I do in this case. Yes, I would say those would be, I would be fine with that order. I think that of all these, actually. And I think all of them are very drinkable.
So, but that's a good sign for the specialty coffee world, that smaller roasters all did better. Good showing. Good showing.
Oh, I really enjoy those coffees. I'm having trouble stopping taking sips, but I really need to because I don't want to overdo it or I won't be able to have any more coffee later. I keep reminding myself.
Now the prices, probably all pretty reasonable.
Let's go through them. A would be Java House Roasters, and it's their 94 vintage blend. It cost me $18.95 for that 12-ounce bag. Cost of the cup brewed is 64 cents a cup. B is Torquey Family Coffee Roasters in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. Cost of that 12-ounce bag was $12.95, so that's 44 cents. C, which is Green Mountain, that's a breakfast blend. It was.
Let me interrupt a minute. I think that A which was a reasonable price, not inexpensive, is indication that they probably, the green coffees probably cost more. You have to have better coffees when you're roasting that light. That's a factor in the difference between A and B. So go ahead.
If we go to C, that would be Green Mountain, and that's their, breakfast blend is $16.49 a bag. 18-ounce bag, however, quite a little bit more than a pound. And that cost per cup is 37 cents. So it is the price leader. Oh, next to Batch Coffee Roasters, that's the New York roaster. Breakfast blend, $15 per bag, 12 ounces, and that's 51 cents a cup. And then we get to Muddy Paw from Silver Lake in L.A. Buddy Blend, the only one that directly benefits dog rescues. And that's a 12-ounce bag, and it is 64 cents a cup. To me, going over the costs always reminds me of why I like to brew at home. Even 64 cents is a very reasonable cost to taste any of these coffees, or less.
They're all bargains, in other words.
All bargains. Very pleased. Thank you, Ken, for suggesting this.
It satisfied me. I thought we might run into some cost-cutting exercises, dead coffees or not very good coffees to start with. We didn't. These are all quite satisfying. These are very good. And they're working a vein of coffee expression that's based on subtlety, on classicism. That requires a really attentiveness, it seems to me, on the part of the blender and the roaster to maximize that classic character.
If you're a coffee traditionalist, these are great bargains and a good way to get coffees that you know are going to be acceptable to just about anyone. They're very, I think these were all crowd pleasers.